Have you ever stopped to think about how many times you said yes and meant no? How many times have you canceled yourself out, swallowed the discomfort, put others first, just to keep the peace, that of others, never yours? Maybe today you are tired, overwhelmed with a heavy heart, and the feeling that you live more to please than to truly exist. And the worst, with guilt. Guilt for feeling exhausted, for not being able to handle everything, for dreaming of having time alone. But what if I told you that the secret to your inner peace lies precisely in what you avoid doing, in the simple but powerful act of saying no? Yes, yours no. It is the key to your freedom. It protects your energy, defines your limits, shows the world, and yourself, that your life deserves respect. But the truth is that we were taught to fear that no. From an early age, many of us were conditioned to please, to give in, to avoid conflicts. They said that whoever loves, gives. Whoever is a good person, never refuses. And so we lost ourselves, molding ourselves to what was expected of us, forgetting to look inside and ask, what about me? What do I want? Saying no without guilt is an act of courage. It's recognizing that your time is valuable, that your well-being matters, and that you didn't come into the world to carry weights that aren't yours. This video is for those of you who are tired of being silent, who feels that the time has come to take a stand, who knows, deep down, that he needs urgent changes to find his peace. And if you've made it this far, it's no coincidence. There is something inside you asking for freedom, shouting for respect, crying out for a new beginning where you listen to yourself more. And that's exactly what we're going to do together now. Reconnect you with your strength, with your truth, with your ability to say no, with love, with firmness, and most importantly, guilt-free. Stay with me, because what I'm going to reveal to you now can completely change the way you relate to others, and especially to yourself. You deserve a light life, where your choices are no longer accompanied by weight, fear, or regret. And this is where it all starts. When you understand that every no you repress is in fact an opportunity to protect yourself, to listen to yourself, and to prioritize yourself. It's not about being rude, it's about being truthful. It's not about pushing people away. It's about getting closer to those who really respect your limits. And I know, maybe this feels new or even uncomfortable at first, but it is precisely in this discomfort that your healing lies. Because every transformation begins with a decision. And today, you are faced with a simple but powerful choice. Continue to please the world while abandoning yourself, or finally put yourself first, firmly, with love, and with conscience. If at any point you felt this video speaking to you, if a phrase touched you, if a memory arose inside while I spoke, that's a sign that you are ready. And if you are ready, then I invite you now to make a small gesture of courage. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel. This isn't just a button, it's a commitment to yourself. It's a way of saying, I choose myself. And what's more, when you like and subscribe, you help this message reach more people who, like you, are stuck in this cycle of guilt and silence. People who just need a word, a push, a reminder like this to wake up. So take a deep breath and come with me. Because what comes next will show you that when you learn to say no, the whole world starts to respect your yes. And maybe now, after everything we've said, you're wondering, but why do I feel so guilty about saying no? Why is it so hard to put myself first? And that is a powerful question, because the answer lies much more in what you experienced than in what you chose. The truth is that from an early age, we were taught to shape ourselves, to please, silence the discomfort so as not to appear ungrateful, smiling even when we wanted to cry. We grew up hearing that a good girl doesn't say no, that education means accepting, that those who love give in. And so we moved away from our own truth, believing that loving others meant always giving in, even if it hurt us inside. The origin of guilt lies in the invisible roots that have surrounded us our entire lives. Demands from society, the fear of rejection, the need for acceptance. How many times have you said yes just to avoid conflict, just to not seem selfish, just to maintain a relationship that was already consuming you, but that you didn't know how to get out of? This guilt you feel was not born with you. It was planted. It was repeated until it became an internal voice that questions you every time you try to put yourself first. But let me tell you something, this is not your fault. It was inherited. And what is inherited can be released. You no longer need to carry the weight of feeling wrong for prioritizing your own peace. You don't have to apologize for protecting your time, your energy, and your heart. You have the right, and even the duty, to take care of yourself. Because when you abandon yourself, nothing makes sense anymore. And when you respect yourself, everything starts to align. Often, guilt comes precisely because you are breaking old patterns. You are unlearning to cancel yourself. You are rediscovering what it means to truly love yourself. And this process hurts, I know. It's uncomfortable, because it forces you to look at everything you've always swept under the rug. But at the same time, it's liberating. It is in this discomfort that healing begins. This is where the woman who knows what she wants, who knows what she deserves, who no longer accepts crumbs just to be accepted, is born. And I want you to think now about how many times you've felt guilty about something that was actually an act of self-love. How many times have you said no with a trembling voice, a heavy heart, but you knew deep inside that it was necessary? And even then, he spent hours or even days wondering if he had done the right thing. Guilt in this case is like a shadow from the past trying to pull you back. But you are no longer the one who needed to shut up to be loved. Today, you are awakening. And now I ask you, with all affection and truth, can you remember a memorable moment when you said no and felt guilty afterwards? A moment when, even though you were doing what was right for you, you carried the weight of judgment, doubt, loneliness. Share with me here in the comments, because when you write, you free yourself. And when other women read it, they recognize themselves. And that is the power of our connection, transforming pain into liberation and guilt into strength. Stay with me, because the next part will show you how every misplaced yes could be taking you away from the life you truly deserve to live. And what can we do to change this today? And when we begin to free ourselves from this guilt, a new understanding emerges. Every yes you give, especially when it is forced or motivated by fear, has a price. And that price is often higher than you imagine. Because saying yes too much is little by little saying no to yourself. And it hurts even if you don't realize it right away. It's subtle, but it builds up. It suffocates your essence. It empties you inside. And the next thing you know, you're living a life that has nothing to do with what you really wanted, just reacting to the demands of others with no time, no energy, no space for yourself. The truth is that your yes has power. He is valuable. He is your permission. And the problem is not saying yes out of love, out of will, out of conscious choice. The problem is saying yes out of obligation, out of fear of being rejected, out of not wanting to disappoint someone. The problem is betraying yourself. Because when you say yes to please others but your heart is screaming no, you are hurting yourself. You are giving up your truth, your inner peace. You're putting other people's desires above your own limits. And that's one of the quietest paths to emotional exhaustion. How many times have you said yes and then been left ruminating inside? How many times have you made commitments that you didn't want, participated in situations that exhausted you, listened to outbursts that no longer fit you, just because you couldn't refuse? Your energy has been wasted on people, tasks, and relationships that do not deserve your dedication. And that's not selfish. It's a reality. Your time is limited, your energy too. And if you don't learn to protect them, no one will do it for you. Every time you force yourself to say yes to maintain an image of being good, helpful, or tireless, you move away from the real woman inside, the one who has her own desires, legitimate needs, and the right to rest, to choose, to preserve herself. Because you're not here to handle everything. You were not created to bear more than you can. And the world won't collapse because you decided to put yourself first. And one more thing. When you say yes too much, you are also educating others to not respect you. Yes, that's right. You are teaching that it is okay to push your limits. That it's okay to look for you only when you need it. That it's okay to be everyone's support, but not have anyone to count on when you're the one who breaks down. This is becoming routine. It becomes a cycle of imbalance where only you donate, only you give in, only you adapt. Therefore, your yes needs to be sacred. It needs to be given with conscience. with truth. When you say no to what hurts you, what burdens you, what takes away your peace, you are saying yes to yourself. You are saying yes to your well-being, to your emotional health, to your inner freedom. And that kind of yes is what heals. It's what transforms. It's what reconnects you with your essence. And I want you now to reflect deeply. Who or what have you been saying yes to lately that, deep down, you know is hurting you? Right here in the comments. Talk to me. It could be a recent situation, an old relationship, a pattern that you have already noticed but have not yet been able to break. When you share, you begin to break the cycle. You start to listen to yourself. And that is already a big step towards healing. Because in the next section, we will understand together how saying no can actually be a profound act of self-love. And when that happens, everything starts to change around you, and especially within you. And it is precisely at this point that everything begins to transform. When you realize that the no you were taught so much to avoid is actually one of the greatest acts of self-love you can offer yourself. Because saying no is not an attack. It is not a lack of affection, nor is it coldness. It's self-care. It's respect. It's knowing that you are also important, that your mental health has value, that your feelings deserve attention. It's looking inside and recognizing that you have limits, and that these limits don't make you less generous, less kind, or less spiritual. On the contrary, they make you more whole, more honest, more aware of who you are. How many times have you heard that saying no was selfish, that refusing help, refusing an invitation, refusing a favor was inconsiderate? And how many times have you swallowed the discomfort, forced yourself to do what you didn't want just to not displease someone? This distortion has been placed in your head as a pattern, but today you can break this pattern. You can reframe all of this. You can understand that a no said with love is as valuable as a yes given with truth. That setting limits isn't about pushing people away, it's about protecting your inner peace. The no you are so afraid to say could be the same one that will save your energy, restore your self-esteem, and give you back your personal power. It can prevent you from exhausting yourself in one-sided relationships, in jobs that suffocate you, in commitments that don't represent you. When you start using no as a tool of protection and no longer as a symbol of coldness, you change the way you relate to the world, and the world starts to treat you differently too. It's like you're finally showing, I respect myself, and I expect the same from others. And this change starts from within. It starts when you put an end to that cycle where everyone comes before you. It starts when you allow yourself to rest without guilt, turn off the phone without having to explain, say you can't without having to justify it. Because you're not here to be approved all the time. You don't need anyone's permission to take care of yourself. Your permission is sufficient. It is important to remember that no does not need to be aggressive or full of anger. It can be said sweetly, calmly, firmly. It can be accompanied by a smile. It can be silent. It could be a subtle departure, a change of attitude, a different choice. Sometimes the no doesn't even need to be verbal. It is expressed in your posture, in your absence, in your decision to no longer submit to what hurts you. And this is also love. Love for you. When you say no, you start to listen to yourself more. You start to feel what you really want. You begin to make decisions that have more to do with your truth and less with the expectations of others. You reconnect with your intuition, with your essence, with that inner voice that has been trying to tell you for so long. You deserve more. You don't have to accept less than you want. And this reconnection is powerful, because the woman who learns to say no without guilt becomes free. Free from the constraints of obligation, demands, self-punishment. And perhaps right now, at this very moment, you are remembering a recent situation in which you should have said no but couldn't. Sometime when you felt in your chest that it wasn't right for you but you still gave in. If this moment came to your mind, write it here in the comments. Share with me. Tell me what stopped you. Because when you talk about it, you start to heal. You start to position yourself. You give voice to the truest part of you. In the next section, I want to show you how the people around you react when you start to position yourself more firmly, and how this reveals very clearly who really respects you and who has just gotten used to your lack of limits. Stay here with me because this will open your eyes, and this is where many masks begin to fall. When you finally take a stand and start saying no more firmly, with more awareness, with more self-love. Some people just don't know how to deal with it, and that says a lot more about them than it does about you. Because those who truly love you, those who respect who you are, those who value your presence will understand your limits, will accept your decision. He will continue to love you even when you say no. But whoever benefited from your lack of limits will be upset, will try to blame you. He will use the emotional bond to trap you again in that same place where you no longer fit. It's amazing how by saying no, we discover who is really by our side and who is just used to using us. Yes, that word is strong, but it's real. Because when you always say yes, even when you are exhausted, even when you don't have time, even when it hurts you, you become a resource, not a person. You become the one who solves everything, who is always available, who never says enough. And when you change that, when you start to respect yourself, these people feel it and react. Some will call you selfish, others ungrateful, cold, distant. But the truth is, they are just losing control over you. And that scares. The no has this power. It reveals the type of relationship you had been maintaining. It shows you who was there out of true love and who was there just for convenience. And yes, that can hurt, because sometimes these people are close to you. They are from within your home. They are old colleagues, even family members. But this pain is also a sign of healing, because from the moment you start to establish your limits, the universe begins to clean out what no longer serves you. It begins to make room for new relationships, more balanced, healthier, more sincere. You're not losing people when you say no. You are finding yourself. You are creating space for the right people to arrive. People who will listen to you, respect you, hug you even when you say, I can't today. Because love that demands constant sacrifice, that requires presence without surrender, that only exists when you cancel yourself out, is not love. It's dependence. It's a disguised lack. And you don't need to carry it around anymore. The woman who learns to say no begins to walk more lightly. It attracts true relationships. It moves away from what weighs and approaches what adds up. She discovers that she doesn't need to beg for respect, because she herself has come to respect herself. And the world responds to that. The world feels it, and adjusts to this new version that is being born within you. It's as if, when you begin to take a stand, you are sending a silent message to the universe. I know what I deserve. And the universe responds. It starts to move pieces, move away what no longer vibrates at its frequency, bring new opportunities, more aligned connections. But it all starts with your decision not to remain silent any longer, not to say yes when your heart asks no. And now I want to invite you to an intimate reflection. When was the last time someone got angry or moved away just because you clearly positioned yourself? Can you remember how you felt? Was it your fault? Were you afraid? Did you back down or stand firm in what you believed in? Share with me in the comments. I want to hear your story, because maybe what you experienced is exactly what another woman needs to hear today to find the courage to do the same. Stay with me, because what follows will teach you how to say that no lightly, without conflict, and with the security of someone who has finally understood that they no longer need to carry the world on their shoulders. The next step is liberating. And now that you understand the profound impact that a no can have on your life and your relationships, the question may come, but how can I say no without hurting, without seeming rude, without feeling guilty afterwards? And this is one of the most common doubts. Because we grew up hearing that no is always loaded with confrontation, coldness, negativity, and that's why we often avoid saying it. But the truth is that no can, and should, be said lightly, clearly, firmly. It doesn't need to sound like an attack. It may come as a soft but non-negotiable position, as an expression of self-love that doesn't need to justify itself all the time. The first step is to understand that you don't need to explain yourself too much. One of the most common traps is believing that you can only refuse something if you provide a long justification. And this, in addition to being tiring, ends up sending a message of insecurity. The no that is accompanied by excessive justifications often leaves room for the other person to question, insist, or even manipulate. You are owed nothing but your truth. Saying no, this is not a priority for me right now, is enough. Saying thank you, but I'm going to decline this time, is enough. Clarity is a form of respect, with others and with yourself. It's also important to pay attention to tone. A no said calmly, with a firm gaze, in a calm voice, has much more strength than a no shouted or crossed. You don't need to become someone aggressive to position yourself. On the contrary, the calmer your energy, the more the other person realizes that you know what you are doing. It's not about making a scene, it's about having a presence. It's about making it clear that your decisions come from an internal place of respect and awareness, not fear or impulsiveness. And know that sometimes the best way to say no is through your attitude. You don't need to answer everything right away, nor justify yourself in conversations that pressure you. You can simply withdraw. You may not respond immediately. You can give yourself some time to think. This is also a way to protect yourself. Responding at the right time, with a clear mind and a firm heart, is a way to avoid regrets and stay aligned with your truth. There are also subtle ways to refuse something, especially when the situation involves loved ones or sensitive environments. Saying, "I'd love to help, but I can't commit at this time," is a graceful way to put it. Or, "I understand how important this is to you, but I need to prioritize other things right now." These phrases demonstrate empathy, but without giving up your limits. And that is emotional maturity. This is self-awareness. This is knowing how to balance respect for others with respect for yourself. And remember one very important thing. Every time you say no truthfully, you are taking a step towards strengthening your identity. You are recognizing yourself as someone who deserves to be heard, respected, considered. She's taking away the burden of trying to please everyone and taking on the power to please first and foremost herself. This changes everything. It transforms your life. And now I want to make you a special invitation. Which of these phrases do you feel you would have the easiest time using in your real life? Or what difficulty do you feel most when trying to say no? Right here in the comments. Share with me. Sometimes, it is in this exchange that the best ideas emerge, the greatest insights, the first steps of a new way of living. Because when a woman stands up with love and firmness, she inspires others to do the same. In the next section, we will delve even deeper into this process of liberation and self-care, showing how often the most powerful no you can give is silence. The choice not to react, to walk away, to protect your energy without the need for words. Stay here with me, because what comes next will hit home. And if there's something that many people still don't understand, it's that silence is also a powerful response. Perhaps one of the wisest choices you can make when words are no longer necessary, because it is not always necessary to explain, justify, or discuss. There are times when the best way to say no is not to react, not to show up, not to wear yourself out. Silence is a silent no, but filled with truth, strength, and above all, self-care. He says, "I chose myself." It communicates without noise that you will no longer spend your energy on what hurts you, what sucks you, and what insists on not seeing you. It is in this silence that you begin to listen to yourself more. It is there that you realize how much you talked too much trying to be understood by those who were never willing to listen. How many times did you explain yourself, repeat yourself, beg for empathy, and still feel ignored? How many times have your words been distorted, your intentions judged, your feelings invalidated, and then you realize that talking doesn't always solve it? That true power is in walking away, not getting involved, not responding to provocation, because silence preserves. It protects you from getting hurt even more. Sometimes healing comes when you stop trying to be heard by others and start listening to yourself. You begin to understand that you no longer need to convince anyone of your value. Whoever wants to see, will see. Whoever wants to stay, will stay. But you no longer have to beg for consideration. Silence connects you with a part of you that has perhaps been forgotten. The one that knows exactly what you feel, what you want, and what you no longer accept. And the most beautiful thing is to realize that the moment you choose silence as a way of no, you are not running away. You are positioning yourself. You are refusing to continue in cycles of wear, manipulation, emotional pressure. You are showing that you have limits, that you will no longer allow them to invade your space, your peace, your energy. This is emotional maturity. It's knowing that You don't win an argument by shouting louder, but by choosing where it's worth investing your presence. And silence doesn't have to be eternal. It may be temporary. A time of reflection, healing, a sacred space where you rebuild yourself, where you find yourself again. And when, and if, you decide to speak again, your words will come from a much stronger, clearer, more centered place, because you will no longer be reacting on the impulse of pain, but responding with the awareness of someone who knows their own worth. And yes, not everyone will understand your silence. Some people will say that you've changed, that you've moved away, that you've become strange. But actually, what happened was, you grew up, and those who are used to the version of you that accepts everything, that gives too much, that is always available, will be uncomfortable. But this inconvenience is not your problem. It is just a reflection of the transformation that is happening within you. You are not obligated to have conversations that hurt you. You are not obliged to remain in groups, relationships, or situations that drain your energy. You have the right to choose silence as your response. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to leave without giving explanations. And this freedom begins to blossom when you understand that your silence is also a no, and a most respectable one. And now I want you to think fondly. When was the last time your silence spoke louder than any words? Have you ever used silence as protection? Have you noticed how it can give you peace when everything seems like noise around you? If this has ever happened to you, share it with me in the comments. Tell me what you learned at that moment. Because sometimes the deepest learning comes exactly when we stop talking and start listening to what our soul has to say. In the next section, we will talk about how to break, once and for all, the cycle of guilt. That feeling that insists on appearing when you choose for yourself, because you weren't born to carry everyone's weight. Stay here with me, because this next part is essential for your release. And once you start setting limits, whether with words or silence, an uncomfortable visitor may knock on the door. Guilt, that inner voice that questions whether you did the right thing, who tries to convince you that she was too harsh, too selfish, too cold. It's as if, even though you know that protecting yourself was the best choice, you still feel bad for doing what was necessary. And this happens because for a long time, we have been trained to put the needs of others above our own, to be pleasant, helpful, always available, even when we were falling apart inside. This guilt does not arise from a bad intention, but rather from a disconnection with one's own identity. You feel guilty because you are unlearning everything you were taught. You're breaking old patterns that said you were only good enough when you put everyone else ahead, that love came with sacrifice, that the right thing was to give in even when it hurt. And now, when you start doing things differently, your mind gets weird. His emotion falters because you are crossing a new frontier, that of self-love. But guilt at this moment is a sign of growth. It appears because you are leaving an automatic mode and entering a new consciousness. And that affects everything. It's natural to feel uncomfortable when you start saying no. It is natural to doubt, rethink, question yourself. But over time, this guilt turns into clarity, in strength, in release. You'll realize that the world didn't collapse because you chose yourself, that people kept living even when you said they couldn't. And most importantly, you started to feel more whole, lighter, more at peace. The cure for guilt comes from practice. The more you position yourself, the more you understand that your limits are sacred, that protecting your energy is a right, that it is not your responsibility to carry the weight of other people's expectations. You didn't come into the world to be everyone's solution. You came to live your own truth. And that includes recognizing that your needs matter, that your time is precious, that you have the right to say no without apologizing for it. And little by little, you will gain confidence. You will realize that guilt no longer has the same power over you, that it may appear, but it no longer paralyzes you. It doesn't make you go back anymore. It no longer dictates your choices. Because now, you look at her with compassion, but also with firmness. You understand that you owe nothing to anyone other than your own peace. And if, at times, she insists on showing up, you can welcome her as if to say, I know you're here because I'm growing, because I'm freeing myself. And by doing so, you break the cycle. You undo the pattern that prevented you from flourishing. You rewrite your story, and she becomes the woman who knows how to respect herself even when the world doesn't understand. And now I want to hear from you. When was the last situation in which you did something for yourself, set a limit, said no, and then the guilt came with force? What did you learn from this? Can you see that even with the guilt, that attitude was an important step in your journey of self-care and liberation? Share with me in the comments. This exchange could shine a light in the path of another woman who is going through exactly what you have already faced. In the next section, we'll dive even deeper into the transformation that begins to happen when you learn to maintain your limits, and how this changes your life from the inside out. Because when you honor your truth, everything starts to align, and your no becomes a bridge to your freedom. Stay here with me, and as you free yourself from guilt and begin to say no, with more awareness and self-love, something surprising begins to happen. Your life begins to gain lightness, a real lightness which does not come from outside but from within. You begin to realize that you have more time, more energy, more clarity. Their relationships begin to change. Some people walk away, yes, and that is a gift, because they were there supported by an imbalance where only you donated yourself. But other people come closer, and with them come truer, more respectful connections, more aligned with your new version. This lightness is not about having a perfect life. It's about having a life with healthy limits, where you no longer struggle to fit into other people's plans, where you no longer have to pretend that everything is fine when in fact you are exhausted, where you can say, "I can't today," without feeling like you'll be rejected or judged, because now you understand that whoever really loves you will respect your moments, your choices, your silences. The woman who learned to say no firmly also learned to say yes truthfully, and that changes everything. You will notice that your emotional health begins to restore itself. That constant anxiety of having to please everyone lessens. The guilt dissolves. The weight of carrying the world on your shoulders disappears. You start to sleep better, breathe deeper, smile more sincerely, because your no is no longer stuck in your throat. It is now part of your vocabulary of self-care, respect, presence. And the most beautiful thing about it all is that when you position yourself lightly, the world starts to treat you according to this new standard. Your routine also changes. You begin to choose more carefully what you accept, where you place your attention, with whom you share your energy. Life becomes quieter inside, more aligned. You feel like you're no longer surviving. You're finally truly living, respecting your cycles, your time, your desires. And in this new space that you created, opportunities, ideas, inspirations that previously seemed too far away flourish, because now you have space, now you have breath, now you have peace. This lightness is a direct reflection of your positioning, of your enough said at the right time, from your silence that became protection, of your courage not to explain yourself to those who never wanted to understand. You begin to walk more firmly, more centered, and whoever sees you feels that. Realize that there is something different about you, that now there is a woman who no longer lets herself be carried by the tide of others, but who has learned to row in the direction of what makes sense for herself. And I want you to stop for a moment now and look at your life. Realize what your days were like before you started setting limits. What were your nights like, your relationships, your thoughts? And see what's changed, even if it's just a little, even if it's still in the beginning. Have you already started to feel this lightness? Have you noticed that after a few no's, your life has become calmer, cleaner, more yours? Share with me in the comments. This reflection can help you further consolidate this process that is already underway within you. And in the next section, we will close this cycle with a powerful revelation. Your no is more than a simple answer. It is the key to your freedom. Because true peace doesn't come from saying yes to everything. It is born when you have the courage to say no to everything that takes you away from who you really are. So stay here with me, because what comes next will remind you of the strong and conscious woman that is awakening inside. And now, after this whole journey of discovery, you begin to see more clearly that your no is not just a word. It is a statement, a turning point, a divide between the woman who lived trying to please everyone and the one who finally understood the value of her own peace. Saying no consciously is liberating. It's like opening a window after years of being locked in a stuffy room. Air comes in. The light enters. your truth comes in. And you breathe differently. It's different. See the world with different eyes. Your no is the key that unlocks the invisible prison of imposed obligations. It is what gives you back control over your own schedule, your time, your body, and your emotions. When you say no, you put yourself at the center of your life. You stop living according to other people's expectations and start living in alignment with your truth. You stop being a spectator of your story and take on the main role. And most importantly, you start to inspire other women. Because every time you position yourself firmly and lightly, you show someone that it is also possible to get out of the cycle of guilt, overload, submission disguised as kindness. Your example begins to heal. Start opening paths. You become a reference of courage, and that is transformative. Maybe you don't realize how far you've come, but I see it. Because just having watched this video so far, that says a lot. You're ready. You've already started. And now the next step is to remain firm in this process of respecting yourself, listening to yourself, prioritizing yourself. Because the woman who knows how to say no with love is the same woman who knows how to say yes to a lighter, more conscious and truer life. And now I want to invite you to a simple but powerful gesture. If this video awakened something inside you, if it touched your heart, if it opened your eyes, subscribe to the channel here. This space is for you. Here we talk about healing, truth, spirituality applied to real life. And if you made it to the end, comment below. My no is my cure. This way I will know that you are committed to your transformation and that we have walked this far together. And prepare your heart, because in the next video, we're going to delve even deeper into a truth that many ignore. You're not just tired, you are exhausted inside, but you keep smiling on the outside. Let's talk about emotional fatigue, this silent exhaustion that doesn't show up in exams, but that is eating away at your soul. And more than that, I'll show you how to reverse it, because there is a way to cure this invisible fatigue. And it starts from within. Activate the bell so you don't miss out, because this next step is essential for your complete liberation. Until then, remember, every no you have the courage to say today is a yes that your soul will thank you for tomorrow.